Alright, here we go, episode 10 of our Middara series, where we're going to be painting the Merk Hound. Something super easy, I promise. This is about as easy as it gets. I'm trying to not make it as overly complicated as it could be, so it's going to be easy. Now, that comes with a caveat. The miniatures from Middara. I wish they were a lot better, because the quality is not all there, especially with this miniature. Anyways, if this is your first time at the channel, or if you're a returning viewer, hit that subscribe button. Hit that thumbs up, hit that little bell button, support the channel if you're a fan. But without further ado, let's go. Obviously, the first thing we're going to be doing is scraping off all those nasty mold lines on our miniature, and unfortunately with this specific miniature, and there's 3 of them, there's quite a few, and they're in kind of crappy places, so get that file if you can and scrape that off. And if you need any supplies, go ahead and hit that description below for any supplies that I use. I'm going to mount them onto some spray paint can tops with some sticky tack. And then we're going to prime in black. I'm using an airbrush, and if you're wondering what airbrush I use, check the description below like I mentioned a couple of slides ago. If not, just hit it with some black spray paint, and then we're just going to do some white from above. So you don't necessarily need an airbrush, it's just easier to control, and I think it looks just a little bit better. It gives you that little extra edge for quality. And the first thing we're going to be doing is we're going to take some Rakarth Flesh, and we're going to go all over this miniature. Make sure you're thinning your paints, since we have some black on the bottom of this and the white on the top. I'm using a wet palette, as you should probably do the same, as they are absolutely amazing, and it helps with saving paint and saving money, and that's what I'm all about. So we're going to hit that whole thing, use the big brush, what you got, and knock that thing all over. Next, we're going to take a nice little dry brush of XV88. I'm using some ghost dry brushes that I got off of Kickstarter. I like to support other creators and people in the miniature world, so they're pretty decent. I like them. Then we're going to take a nice little easy dry brush of some Abaddon Black, and we're just going to hit that top part very light on this. Don't go overly crazy on this color. After the black, we're going to slip on some Aggaros Dunes. Speaking of Dunes, I'm reading the Dune book right now, just because the movie's coming out, and so far so good. If you have read Dune, let me know what you think in the comments below. Next, we're going to take some of that black Templar, another contrast paint from Citadel, and we're going to be painting the tips of our spikes on the back and on the tail very carefully. For the inside of our mouth, we're going to use some Volupus Pink, and on the tongue, And for our teeth, we're going to be using some of that Rakarth Flesh. Again, that's why it pays to have a wet palette. We're going to use this Corax White for a couple things. Our teeth, just the tips of them, and we're going to use it on the black tips of our spikes on the back of our miniature. For our webbed portions and in between the fingers and I guess toes of our miniature, we're going to take some of that Khorne Red. Now this is what I have the biggest gripe about, is because the quality of this portion of the miniature is extremely poor. I understand that they spent most of their time and their emphasis on the game and their story, because the story is fantastic. It's like reading a novel and playing a board game. I thoroughly enjoy it. So they cut back a little bit on the miniatures, and that also adds to the cost, and this game was already expensive, so I get it. I'm just nitpicking, and I'm, whatever. Going back to that Corax White, we are going to be hitting that with the eyeball. There's a nice little crevice that you can make a nice little eyeball with, so that's good. Go back to that Khorne Red and put a little dollop in the middle of the eye. And put a little bit in the center of that red dollop. And we're also going to use some of this Wild Rider Red on the red portions we already painted between the toes and on the little flaps on the back. And finally, we're going to dull those eyes down a little bit and put some Nulin Oil that will get into the crevice and make a nice little round eyeball portion for us. And finally, your favorite part of painting a miniature, the end, which is painting just the rim and the bottom of the base black. Be careful, and this is going to take a minute as it is kind of hard on the bottom. That's it. Nothing too crazy. Now, it's not the best miniature, I'll give you that. It's quick and simple, but the miniature itself is just kind of meh. So we could spend more time on it, but hey, let's just get it painted up somewhat okay to match the card art, and let us just get it on the table good enough to play with. So, hey, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. And if you are not a subscriber, hit that subscribe button if you're still watching this video. Come on, you got nothing to lose. Support the channel. And I appreciate everything you guys do and watching the video. All right, until next time, paint on.